We're doing Silver Surfman today. Silver Surfman 60 by Ron Marsgill and Ron Lee. That last guy is Stanley Lee's little brother. And this one is an unofficial, unbranded Affinity Gauntlets tie-in. You know me, the 90s Affinity stuff has some relevance to me and Christmas. Here we start with a little extra bit of the story from Affinity Gauntlets. A bit we don't see in the main thing. Alan Watson, he has obtained the Affinity Gauntlet and he became this universe's supreme being at the end of that story. And here we see a trio of the last standing heroes, Silver Surfman, Doctor Strange and 90s Thor. They are pondering if Alan Watson with the omnipotent trinket on his hand is even a good thing, or if they now need to stop him as well. Before they can act, Alan Watson uses his new god powers to send them back to Earth, back to Doctor Strange's house. I thought I was going to have to explain what the art was trying to do on this page, with the dark parts of 90s Thor and Doctor Strange's costumes. But it doesn't look that bad in hand. I used it as a cutaway a week or two ago and I hated using it because it looked so bad. It looks like a bad mistake, but in hand it's fine. This scene is, as you have already seen, quite notable as part of the Affinity Gauntlet story, and I was thinking about starting reviewing one of those today. Affinity Wilds. I was going to do Affinity Wilds issue 1, because I feel I have some stuff to say about that story that people haven't already said a dozen times. But I started thinking, I've got too many ongoing stories on the docket. There's Capwolf, there's the IT plot in Fantastic Force. Only one more part of that to go, actually. We start another Evasion story arc tomorrow, which I recorded a week ago. Dome People, Incarnate, Tom Beavort's Defenders. There's Alpha Strike, which is a fucking snail's pace for me. Radiation Dude, the sequence of comics I have planned with him, which is kind of pointless considering no one watched my Radiation Dude video. Last Days of Animals Man, Ace, the Mach-2 guy, Enemy of the State, Avengers vs Invaders. There's too much stuff dangling. I don't think taking on a big crossover, one with a couple of tie-ins worth looking at too, is a good idea. So we are looking at a mostly standalone issue of Silver Surfman here, by a writer whose Silver Surfman comics I have only really bashed, and I'm always surprised I end up doing so. This one is good though. This opening scene with the fallout of the big crossover is great actually. This is the sort of embellishment I adore when tie-ins do. We don't need to see Doctor Strange, Silver Surfman and 90s Thor discuss the outcome of the story and what their next move should be. Talking about if they need to start planning to take down Alan Watson. We don't need that in the main story, but it's fantastic to have here. It also put in my mind something about Ron Marsgill. I think Ron Marsgill is a better writer under direction. Ron Marsgill took over Silver Surfman with issue 51, taking over from Jim Starman, who had moved over to writing Affinity Gauntlets. And Ron Marsgill's first 10 issues are all Affinity Gauntlets tie-ins of dramatically varying quality. His first few are great. They are doing the same sort of embellishment we're seeing in this issue. And I think what is making them work is that the stories themselves aren't entirely his. They are born on the back of things from Jim Starman stories. When you leave Ron Marsgill to his own devices, it's always Silver Surfer has a fucking dream that Jim Starman is probably in the loop, and Ron Marsgill is building on Jim Starman stories. That is working to Ron Marsgill's advantage. His scripting can be good. It's plotting where he really falls apart, and his plots then affect his scripting in the worst ways. We have this great bit where 90s Thor leaves and Silver Surfer and Doctor Strange discuss that 90s Thor doesn't seem to be the Thor they are familiar with, but that it doesn't matter all that much because this new Thor did conduct himself as heroically as the real Thor in the thick of it. Excellent character writing here. Love it. And I have said in other videos that Affinity Gauntlets is like the best shown for 90s Thor. His creators loved making him job and be a clumsy buffoon, but give him to other writers and he would acquit himself well in scenarios. There's no need for you to point out that part of the reason is that originally Affinity Gauntlets was being worked on with the idea it would be the real Thor. I know that. The thing is though, the minute they found out that Thor had been replaced, they could have removed the character or minimised them, but they didn't. They let 90s Thor do much of what the real Thor would have done, and that is leagues above his usual blundering. Silver Surfer leaves for space with the objective of destroying Thanius's shrine to Mistress Death. But as he leaves, he is being spied on by someone, which leads us to our immediate fight. That someone is Midwife, an odd character with a bit of a bonkers history that I will get into in a bit, but it's worth pointing out that this is a hallmark of Ron Marsgill's Silver Surfer. The lead character, Silver Surfer, is always minding his own business and then ends up in a fight with a stranger. The difference is, it's earned it a bit here. We have had a solid opening scene with characterisation, and we're not rushing in with this being the second or third page. There's also no double splash images in this issue. There's a built-in reason why this big misunderstanding fight can come to be. Silver Surfer has only encountered Midwife as an enemy before, and Midwife cannot communicate. We'll get more into that after I explain Midwife. Midwife was created by Steve Englehart and Jim Starman in Special Marvel Edition 16. I think I got those words in the right order. Also known as Master of Kung Fu 16. Midwife is a martial arts expert who was a foil for Bruce Lee, the Marvel character Bruce Lee. And I've not read those comics, but the thing that Midwife always had going for him was he looks impressively cool. He only appeared in that one issue though, arguably a waste of a potential nemesis for Bruce Lee that might have been strong enough to get someone like me to be interested in a comic I have no interest in. You see, he dies at the end of it. His story doesn't end there though, as we are obviously seeing today. But I also probably won't have a chance to tell this story otherwise, so that issue is, I think, Jim Starman's final issue drawn Bruce Lee. He did the first two. and then found out, he realised that Fu Manchu is horrifically racist. That Fu Manchu is a very storied stereotype, and even in the early 70s, it was a bit much. So Jim Starman stopped drawing it because he did not want to be associated with it. In him leaving the book, it's virtually impossible for it to have gone down without Jim Starman explaining why Fu Manchu isn't great to his friend Steve Engeltine, and Jim Starman saying that he didn't want to draw a racist character. Steve Engeltine kept writing the stories for a bit more. It didn't bother him. I'm not twisting events or suggesting a narrative. There's very little possibility that Steve Engeltine wasn't made aware that Fu Manchu is a bit of an embarrassing stereotype in 1973, and that it turned off his friend from drawing the stories, but he obviously didn't have a problem with it. I like to break up these histories so you are left in puzzlement of how Midwife is alive, and how on earth is a mere martial artist fighting Silver Surfman. Excellent art by Ron Lee. He always had a flair for physical action that he didn't get to showcase that often. One of the things that is making this misunderstanding fight happen is that Midwife is mute, or he is now mute. I don't know if he was always mute, but he can't explain why he is attacking Silver Surfman, or what is wrong with him. We have that other Ron Marz girl thing, where this is very light on dialogue. This is very similar to his later scripts, where it feels like he is stretching out nothing. And that stuff reflects on his earlier efforts, where you can sort of see the same thing. The difference between the two is that this is enjoyable. I'm not annoyed that we are spending most of the issue on a meaningless fight, because it's actually both an exciting and entertaining fight. Midwife, after his death, Midwife got more use. First was in Avengers. He was resurrected as part of Kronos' Legion of the Unliving. Another Steve Engeltine story there. Really, he was only brought back from the dead in that, so Steve Engeltine could have him fight his pet character Willow. Absolutely no other purpose. Transparent as hell. He returned to his death after that, but there was a backup story printed somewhere, which was starring Midwife. It was by Royce Sternum. I have no idea where it ran, but I'll show the cover of whatever it was right now, because I will find out when I go looking for cutaways. After that, and many, many years later, Steve Engeltine resurrected him again in his Silver Surfman run. Chances are, he resurrected Midwife with the intention of moulding him into a nemesis for Willow. But we never got that thanks to editorial, and instead Midwife entered this weird, short-lived phase of being a Silver Surfman enemy. Our story is that the Kree people resurrected him. They rebuilt him a bit, gave him some cybernetic enhancements, and he has amnesia on top of being unable to speak. He fought Silver Surfman a couple of times, and after Steve Engeltine left, he appeared in a backup story in Silver Surfman Annual 3 or 4, Whichever one you are seeing the cover of is the answer. That was either Jim Starman or Ron Marz girl. It dived more into his resurrection at the hands of the Kree people. And then we get to this, which was both my introduction to the character, as well as what stood for decades as the character's final appearance. With the recent elevation they have given the Bruce Lee character because of a movie that didn't do that well, Midwife, I would assume, has made a return in those books now. This was where he was left for years though, and he does actually somehow fare okay against Silver Surfer. We're going with the idea that a trained fighter can take down an untrained fighter regardless of power class. They are fighting on the moon and they are destroying the moon, and so someone tells them to stop, and his words cause further chaos and destruction. It is Blue Balls and the Unhumans, and we have a nice ending where all is forgiven and the Unhumans agree to foster Midwife and help him develop a form of communication, similar to how Blue Balls is unable to talk. We never see Midwife with the Unhumans again, just like Starthief from New Warriors. I have this theory that the Unhumans might adopt random characters who are at a loose end and then eat them for dinner. It might be because I don't like the Unhumans much, but Starthief never appeared again, and Midwife didn't appear again for like 25 years, if ever again. We end this issue with set up with Benicio del Toro for the next story, and this kind of upsets my proposal that Silver Surfer Homecoming, the graphic novel, best fits after this. As I said in that issue of Marvel Fanfare, it's pretty much impossible to read or organise the Marvel Universe into an actual order. It took a few goes, but we finally got to a Ron Marz girl Silver Surfer that isn't frustratingly terrible. I think while a lot of the same things are on display, it is telling a story that the writer at least cares about telling well. It's more than just a trudge to get a script in on time. He was trying. The bad thing is that Korg isn't even coming in this one, and that's why I've got to only rate it 7 thumbs up.